In a small village, surrounded by green hills, lived an elderly couple. Their house was modest, with a thatched roof and wooden walls. The man worked in the rice fields from sunrise until the sun set behind the mountains. His wife washed clothes in the river and tended to her small garden. Although they didn't have much, they loved each other deeply. However, deep in their hearts, they harbored a longing to have a child. One summer morning, the old woman went to the river as usual. The water flowed fresh among the stones, and she hummed a song while scrubbing the clothes. Suddenly, something caught her attention. Floating down the river came a peach. But it wasn't just any peach. It was enormous, almost the size of a pumpkin, and its rosy skin glowed under the sun. The woman was astonished. In all her years, she had never seen anything like it. With effort, she stepped into the water and stretched to reach it. The peach was heavy, and for a moment she feared it would slip from her hands and continue down the river. But she managed to grasp it firmly and bring it to the shore. Forgetting the half-washed clothes, the old woman wrapped the peach in her apron and ran towards her house, as fast as her old legs could carry her. Her heart pounded, not just from the exertion but from the excitement. She had a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. When she arrived home, she carefully placed the peach on the table and anxiously awaited her husband's return. The hours felt eternal. When she finally heard the tired footsteps of the old man approaching, she went out to greet him with a smile from ear to ear. Come quickly," she said, pulling on his sleeve. "You have to see this." Intrigued by his wife's excitement, the old man followed her inside. When he saw the enormous peach on the table, his eyes widened. "Where did this come from?" he asked, approaching to examine the fruit. The woman told him about her discovery in the river. Both of them gazed at the peach, marveling at its size and beauty. "We should eat it," suggested the old man after a moment. "It must be delicious." His wife nodded, and carefully, the man took a knife to cut the peach. But as soon as the blade touched the fruit's skin, they heard a sound like a soft cry. Surprised, the old couple looked at each other. The man set aside the knife and with his hands separated the peach halves. What they saw took their breath away. Inside the peach, curled up as if sleeping, was a baby. He was small, with rosy skin like the fruit that had carried him, and when he opened his eyes, they shone with a light that filled the elderly couple's hearts with warmth. Without hesitation, the woman took the baby in her arms. The child stopped crying and smiled, showing adorable dimples in his chubby cheeks. It's a miracle," said the old man with tears in his eyes. His wife nodded, gently rocking the baby. "The gods have heard our prayers," she said. "They have sent us a child." That night, while the baby slept peacefully in an improvised cradle, the old couple discussed what to name him. Finally, they called him Momotaro, which means peach boy. Momotaro grew quickly, surprising his adoptive parents and the village neighbors. His strength was extraordinary from a young age. At 5 years old, he could carry buckets of water that older children could barely move. But it wasn't just his physical strength that stood out, but also his kind heart. Every morning, Momotaro accompanied his father to the rice fields. While the other children played, he insisted on helping. His small hands learned to plant the seedlings carefully, to weed without harming the good plants. The older farmers smiled when they saw him, amazed by his dedication. In his adolescence, Momotaro began training in martial arts. His body, already naturally strong, became agile and skilled. He practiced with sticks in the forest, jumped over streams, and climbed trees with the grace of a monkey. The other young people admired him and followed, forming a united group under his natural leadership. Gradually, disturbing news began to arrive. Oni, terrible demons, were terrorizing villages on a distant island called Onigashima. They looted, stole, and sowed chaos wherever they went. Momotaro listened, feeling his heart beat faster. For the first time, he saw a clear purpose for his strength and skills. That night, while everyone slept, he left his house and looked at the stars. He made a silent promise. He would use his strength to protect the weak, to fight against injustice. Immediately, Momotaro informed his parents of the decision he had made. Despite their sadness, they agreed. "I have prepared kibidango for you," said his mother, placing the package in front of Momotaro. "They are the tastiest millet dumplings I could make. They will give you strength for your journey." Momotaro took the package and said, "Thank you, mother. I will cherish them as if they were a treasure." That night, while his parents slept, Momotaro stayed awake, preparing mentally and physically for the journey ahead. He checked his equipment, sharpened his sword, and carefully stored the package of kibidango in his belt. At the first rays of sunlight, Momotaro set out on his journey. Momotaro walked along a path lined with lush trees, with the sun filtering through the leaves. He hadn't gone far when he heard a bark. A spotted dog appeared from the bushes, its eyes fixed on Momotaro with curiosity. "Where are you going in such a hurry, boy?" asked the dog, wagging its tail. Momotaro stopped, surprised to hear the animal speak. "I'm going to Onigashima to confront the Oni that terrorizes the villages," he replied. The dog barked excitedly. "How brave you are! I've wanted to do something to help for a long time. Can I go with you? My sense of smell is very good. I could be useful to you." Momotaro smiled, grateful for the offer. He took out one of the kibidangos his mother had prepared and offered it to the dog. "It would be an honor to have you as a companion," said Momotaro. "Delicious! Now I feel like I could run to the end of the world," said the dog. Together, they continued the journey. The path led them through a dense forest when suddenly a high-pitched screech surprised them. A monkey jumped from a nearby branch, landing in front of them. "I heard your conversation," said the monkey, scratching his head. "Are you going to face the Oni? How exciting! I'm very agile and can climb anywhere. Can I join you?" Momotaro looked at the dog, who nodded enthusiastically. He took out another kibidango and gave it to the monkey. "Welcome to the team," said Momotaro. The monkey savored the dumpling and jumped for joy. "Wow! Now I feel so strong that I could knock down a tree with one punch." The three continued on their way, now with the monkey leaping from tree to tree, exploring the path ahead. They reached a clearing where the forest opened up to a bright blue sky. A caw caught their attention. A pheasant with colorful feathers descended in circles and landed in front of them. "I've been watching you," said the bird. "Your mission is noble and dangerous. I can fly and be your eyes in the sky. Would you accept me as a companion?" Momotaro smiled broadly. He took out the last kibidango he had left and shared it with the pheasant. "With your help, we'll surely reach Onigashima." The pheasant ate its share and spread its wings. "Incredible! I feel like I could fly around the world without getting tired." Thus, the group was complete. Momotaro, the brave young man born from a peach, the dog, with his keen sense of smell, the monkey, with his unparalleled agility, and the pheasant with his privileged sight from above. Each brought something unique, and together they formed a formidable team. After days of travel, Momotaro and his companions reached the coast. The sea stretched out before them, its waves crashing forcefully against the rocks. In the distance, shrouded in mist, rose the dark silhouette of Onigashima. The island looked like something out of a nightmare, with cliffs and a menacing fortress at its peak. The pheasant spread its wings. "I'll fly to get a closer look," it said. The others nodded, watching as the bird disappeared into the clouds. While they waited, Momotaro, the dog, and the monkey sat on the beach. The young hero took the last kibidango from his bag and shared them with his friends. They ate in silence, each lost in thoughts about what awaited them. After what seemed like an eternity, the pheasant returned, landing softly in front of them. "The island is heavily guarded," it reported, shaking its feathers. "There are oni of all colors and sizes patrolling the walls. The main entrance is a huge iron gate, guarded day and night." Momotaro frowned, considering this information. "We need a plan," he said. The dog perked up its ears. "We could swim to the island at night," it suggested. "My sense of smell will guide us in the dark." The monkey shook its head. "The water is too cold and the current is strong. We wouldn't all make it." "Let's build a raft," proposed Momotaro. "We'll cross when night falls, using the darkness to approach unseen." Everyone agreed. They set to work, gathering logs and vines in the nearby forest. They worked tirelessly, tying the wood with sturdy knots. As the sun began to set, their raft took shape. With the last light of day, they pushed the raft into the water. They climbed aboard and, using long branches as oars, began their journey to Onigashima. The stars and the waning moon barely illuminated their path. The wind blew strongly, bringing with it a cold that chilled to the bone. Momotaro and his friends rode in silence, alert to any sound that might betray the presence of the oni. As they approached the island, the roar of the waves against the cliffs grew louder. The pheasant, perched on Momotaro's shoulder, whispered directions to avoid the rocks hidden beneath the water. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the raft touched land. They had arrived at a small hidden bay, far from the main entrance of the fortress. Carefully, they disembarked on the pebble beach, making sure not to make any noise. Stealthily, they ventured onto the island, hiding in the shadows. The Oni fortress loomed before them, imposing and terrifying. But Momotaro felt no fear. He knew that with the strength of his friends and his courage, they could face any obstacle. Momotaro and his companions arrived at the main hall of the fortress. The place was immense, with stone columns rising to a vaulted ceiling. Torches on the walls cast shadows, creating a menacing atmosphere. In the center, seated on a throne made of bones, was the leader of the Oni. He was a majestic creature with red skin and muscles that seemed sculpted from rock. His black, sharp horns brushed the ceiling. Around him, dozens of smaller Oni growled and fidgeted, eager for a fight. The Oni leader rose slowly, making the ground tremble beneath his feet. His voice boomed in the hall. "Who dares enter my fortress?" Momotaro stepped forward. Despite the Oni towering several meters above him, the young hero showed no fear. "I am Momotaro, from the land of Japan. I have come to end your reign of terror." The Oni burst into laughter, a sound that chilled the blood. "You and what army, little human?" the Oni leader mocked. "I don't need an army," replied Momotaro. "I have loyal friends and a just cause." Without further words, the battle began. The Oni charged in mass at the small group. The dog, with his sharp fangs, leaped and bit, taking down the smaller Oni. The monkey, agile and swift, climbed the columns and jumped on the enemies, confusing them and making them trip over each other. The pheasant flew in circles, pecking at eyes and distracting the Oni so his companions could attack. Momotaro was at the center of the action, his sword gleaming in the torchlight. He fought with strength, dodging blows and countering with precision. One by one, the Oni fell to his skill. The battle seemed endless. For every Oni that fell, another took its place. Momotaro and his friends began to tire, but they did not give up. Finally, only the Oni leader remained. The others lay on the ground, defeated or fleeing the fortress. The great red demon roared with fury and charged at Momotaro. The final duel was epic. The Oni attacked with his enormous club capable of crushing rocks. Momotaro dodged and counterattacked, searching for a weak spot. Momotaro knew he couldn't win by strength alone. He observed his enemy, looking for a strategy. He noticed that the Oni was slow to turn due to his large size. Taking advantage of this, Momotaro began to move in circles, faster and faster. The Oni, confused, tried to follow him, spinning around. Momotaro increased his speed and the monster began to get dizzy. The young hero jumped and plunged his sword into the Oni's chest. The monster roared in pain and surprise, staggering backward. With one last effort, Momotaro pushed the sword deeper. The Oni leader fell to his knees, roaring in pain. He looked at Momotaro with rage before collapsing to the ground. Momotaro, panting from the effort, looked around. His companions, wounded but alive, approached him. They had done it. The Oni were defeated. As the dust of battle settled, Momotaro realized his adventure was not over. He had to decide what to do with the surviving Oni and how to ensure they never terrorize the villages again. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of relief and pride. He had fulfilled his promise and protected his people. With the mission accomplished and the treasures in their possession, Momotaro and his friends bid farewell to the mysterious island and set off on the journey back home. The return journey was calmer and more pleasant, with the satisfaction of duty fulfilled and the joy of sharing their adventures with loved ones. Upon reaching the village, they were greeted with a grand celebration. The villagers, grateful for Momotaro's bravery and heroism, hailed him as a savior. The treasures brought from the mysterious island allowed the village to prosper and live in peace for many years. And so concludes the epic adventure of Momotaro, the hero who freed his people and discovered the treasures of the mysterious island. This video has been created for the channel Myth Comics. Thank you for watching this video to the end. See you on the next adventure.